And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, April 27th. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Doing good. Doing
Fantastic.
Hey, can we get a sound check from everybody in chat, please? And for some reason, the YouTube chat is not working, so you guys might not see it on the screen. Hey, that's the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Sound's working okay, and the YouTube chat's working okay as far as YouTube's concerned, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working okay here too. So,
well, we have a full house to start with, which is awesome to see. A few new people. Eriks, Sean, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so we tried. If anybody doesn't know, Eriks is a community member in the chat, always bringing up great suggestions, and Sean is a kind of one of those guys behind XFCE. Yeah, Xubuntu.
Yeah.
So we're happy to have you both.
Like the main one of them.
Yeah, the main one. Yeah, he's the guy. But Simon Quigley is not here, obviously, because he didn't fix Pulse Audio yet. He's busy out at having fun at Linux Fest Northwest there. So, but we are going to talk about Lubuntu, and Dan is going to take all the heat for Simon.
Yeah. I'll let him know later.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start backwards this week, right, Zeb?
Indeed.
Yes. All right, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Did you try Lubuntu, and what do you think of it?
Sir. So let me just start the beginning thing with, so everybody's going to say it. So they made a major change, and they kind of changed their focus and their DE. And that's a big change. And for a long time, everybody was, if you're going to run the really lightweight Ubuntu distro, you run Lubuntu. And so that's fine. And you have everybody on 32-bit hardware running it. And they made a decision. I mean, Ubuntu basically helped make it when they dropped 32-bit ISO support. And there was a little bit of, I saw it a little bit more with them and a little bit more with Xubuntu, where people were really upset with the dropping 32-bit support. But you can, I think Martin has mentioned before that you just go buy a Raspberry Pi and you can run any distro basically power-wise on it. So 32-bit systems are dying. I've got one sitting next to me. I love them, but that is what it is. So I wasn't really with you guys when you guys did 1810. And you kind of did the beta of it. And there were some things that you saw. And 6 months later, they've rolled out a pretty nice release. There are some issues. I've got a personal one. Something that XFCE does and has done for so long is if I have a virtual workspace, I can go to another workspace and have a different background. I love it. It helps our workflow. It used to work in, God, I want to say LMDE, but it's LXDE. And the switch over to LXQT, God, that's so many acronyms. That was broken. Obviously, that's an upstream issue. It is what it is. Hopefully it'll get fixed someday. There's a script. Didn't really work quite like I wanted it to, but that's just one thing. There is a bug that's putting in temp file that you can't do anything with on the desktop. That's already, they knew about it, so it's no big deal. It appears, it disappeared. Not a major issue. For me, the biggest thing Ubuntu's problem is I do not like PC Man. It is probably my least favorite of the GUI file managers. And it works. You can easily throw it in anywhere. It'll work on any system. It doesn't really have that many dependencies. It's just probably what I think is the weakest point of the entire distro, to be honest. There are a few little things that are going on, but things look really good. There's been a lot of work. I think the icons look really good. Super key works out of the gate. theming, there's a couple little things where theming doesn't look really great, but the distro itself looks a lot better than it did back in 1804 days. So I'm really, really pleased with what they've done, and I think it looks really good. There are some nibbles, but if I had to, I would not. It would probably, I'm sorry to say, it'd be number 3 on the Ubuntu distros that I would run, but if I had to, I'd run it.
Very nice. Very nice. Dan, you got anything to add to that at all?
No, I mean, that's excellent. I will say that you noted that temp file thing on the desktop, and we've already pulled it, and the upstream's already fixed that, and we've already pulled it in for our CI builds, and that'll get fixed at some point soon, hopefully. So we keep working on things. There's a lot of changes upstream that keeps us on our toes. So,
all right, Derek.
Hi guys.
What's happening, brother?
Oh, not much. I did get to play with Lubuntu a little bit this week. Not for too long. I actually played for a couple hours with it earlier today too. He talks about PC Man FM being the weak point with LXQt. I disagree. I think PC Man FM is fine. I think the Discover Software Center they use is a pretty weak point. He mentioned theming too. I did notice some issues with some of the theming going on in Discover, but also in other areas. I'm not much of a tweaker, so I typically kind of take things as is, and out of the box, Lubuntu 1904 looks very clean, polished, but when you start playing with the theming, you've got so much stuff that you got to try to coordinate with the Qt theme, and then your GTK themes if you're doing GTK apps, and then the LXQt panel theme, which is completely separate, and then the OpenBox theme, which is also completely separate. So you got like 4 or 5 different things you got to set, and that can be kind of confusing. And to get them all to kind of look good, you're probably not going to be happy if you're that kind of user like Rocco. He's that 1 pixel off kind of guy. So I would just take it as is. The theme they ship with, the icon set they ship with looks great. Don't mess with it because you're probably just going to break things. As far as performance, it's light and fast, using like 350 megs of RAM, on a cold boot. So Calamaris installer was a nice change. So I don't know if the other flavors of Ubuntu will make that change soon, but maybe Lubuntu is going to be the testing ground for that. Maybe the rest of them will follow suit.
Well, Derek, you mentioned about Discover, and I was talking to Dan earlier in the week about that when you go to use Ubuntu, you open the menu and you type in software, and you don't get anything except software sources.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to look around to see what software center was there, and I found Discover. But then I was talking to Dan, and he said Muon is their preferred package manager, and it's installed. It's just, I guess, it's not different because there are other distros that have 2 software managers. But I think that Muon should be highlighted if that's the default one. And
because I assumed Discover was the default one because when I did my little video about the 1904 releases about a week ago, I could have swore Lubuntu in their release notes, that was one of the highlights they mentioned was, some updates to Discover. So I assumed, they were kind of working on Discover. So.
Right.
Well, we're not. I mean, KDE is.
Okay.
We're pulling it in. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The other thing is, I think that it should be somehow caught in the menu that if you type in software, especially Muon or Discover or both,
contextual sort of search.
Yeah, should come up.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, did you get to try out Lubuntu?
Yeah, I ran it pretty much most of the week. I think. I installed it Tuesday and ran it most of the week. I was going to live stream from it, but I didn't finish setting up a lot of things on it. A lot different than when I first tried it and looking at it when Peppermint used it. Or really, well, not Qt, but using LXDE fully more than it did XFCE. It looks much better than it has. Man, it installed like 5 minutes. I mean, it was right quick on my laptop. Yeah, I did. I couldn't figure out what that file was that ended up on the desktop, and I did had time to kind of look to see what was causing it. But in kind of like a typical LXDE QT fashion, in going to a lot of the settings, especially if I had a kind of search to find the setting that had all the settings in it. But if you go into one and you try to go back, you have to go all the way back in. You can't just. It doesn't seem like you're able to just go back and go to another setting if you got in the wrong setting. It just seems like a kind of an extra step that to me doesn't need to be taken. Something as simple as the wallpaper. You click to change it, and it brings up the file manager instead of bringing up where the wallpaper is. So if you want to change that wallpaper, you can't change it relatively quick. Not that it's a super thing, but any new user might want to change it a little bit quicker. Otherwise, I mean, I thought it was themed nice. I thought it was different that it had Discover in there as a software installer. I mean, I installed Simple Screen Recorder, and I think I did OBS and Chromium, and they all installed pretty well without a hitch. I did when I was on watching. No, when I was doing a stream on Wednesday, I think when I was on YouTube Live, I was doing it from LXQT. Theming is really nice. It looks better than it has in the past. There's just a few little nuances that after like using a little bit more XFCE type panels that I wasn't used to again, like I said, looking for all the settings and that. Otherwise, I think they're heading in the right direction. I mean, I get cold booted, 500 megabytes of RAM being used. But yeah, I mean, nice. Just a few little things that I thought.
Yep. All right, Dave, what do you think of Lubuntu, dude?
Very happy with it. I actually threw it onto a 2007 MacBook, and it's one of the few distros because the MacBook's kind of got oddball hardware where you have to boot in 32-bit, but it'll run a 64-bit. So I had to make one little tweak to the ISO, but other than that, it installed great. It runs great. As I spend most of my time, as people know, in the command line, the theming issues are much less for me. PC ManFM does everything I needed to do. It works just fine. Don't use the software centers, so I can't really speak to them. But it runs great for me. It's solid. It hasn't even hiccuped once on very old hardware. So I am loving it to death, and it's just gonna stay. And like I told Dan earlier this week, I'm basically gonna leave it there. And if they need anything tested, it's gonna be a rig that I use for doing some of my writing, and minor stuff like that. I won't be gaming on it or anything, but it's just been a good, solid distro for me.
Very nice. All right, Silent. Let me have it, dude.
The install was fine. No problem there. Calamari. Always welcome to see that because it's a nice, simple installer to follow. Out of the box, the desktop to me is reminiscent of Deepin. I suppose it's the hummingbird they've got there, or kingfisher, whatever bird that is. The theming, though, I'm an aesthetics guy. That's important to me as much as anything else of a distro. It's got to look
man
nice
after my own heart
to stay in it day after day. I couldn't understand the default icon theme of Papyrus straight, because against a dark background, you're getting dark gray icons on things. It should have been Papyrus dark to offset that. So obviously I instantly changed that. I just think that's a quirk with LXQT as it is at the moment. I understand it's still in its infancy, so I'm not going to be too harsh with it, but As a desktop itself, it's fine. It's just the modules, if you like, that make it up definitely need work, especially the search function in the menu. That is really balked, in my opinion. You have to click the search before you can even start searching. It's not dynamic enough for me to just click on the menu icon and start typing, like all other menu systems allow you to do that. The temporary file has already been mentioned on the desktop. That was a weird one. And the trash icon has an empty label in brackets next to the word trash. I don't think that's necessary. Just change the color of the icon when it's full or has something in it, as most other trash icons do. That's a bit weird, I thought. Apart from that, I mean, it installed okay and it's running beautifully, to be honest with you. I think it's about 370 meg from cold boot to desktop. I mean, it's very, very light. There's no just denying that. For me, it was mainly the theming.
It's funny, Silent mentioned the Papyrus icon set against that dark panel. I had the opposite problem. I immediately switched to a light colored panel, and I thought the Papyrus icon set didn't look quite right on that. It looked like it was a little too light for a light panel as well. So I don't know.
Right.
It's weird that you're thinking completely opposite to me. I didn't think it looked right on the KDE Plasma silver panel option. So.
Well, I instantly have to go for a dark theme on any desktop just because of the condition I have. I need to have a dark theme for my eyes. Mm-hmm. I like PC Man FM GTK version. Yeah. The QT version of it, no, it needs serious work. The interface itself is quite clunky, I find. The one benefit that I could find from it out of the box, you can go to the tool menu and open as root. That was quite nice to see. It would be nice if it was on the right click. That's a little bit quicker than having to go up to the top menu, but the fact that that's there was a plus.
We put that in for Rocco.
So that was nice to see. But without me installing extra tools like Xubuntu and QD5CT, there was no way for me to make a completely dark theme out of the box. And that has put me off of using it in its current state without me having to do extra work to get to that state, you know. Other than that, I haven't got a great deal more to say about it.
Did we mention the grub screen?
Oh, my word.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say. That's all we need to say.
The grub screen itself is fine. The login manager theme, however, is an unthemed SDDM. There is no theme applied to it whatsoever. And I just thought, why? Why put this out there with it like that? At least apply a theme other than the default.
It's like everybody said, I think it's a work in progress, and they've got so many areas to think about that sometimes they just miss these little nuances.
But I think, you know, it's like with Peppermint and other distros like MX, for example, it's ready when it's ready. Don't just put it out there because everyone's done a release. You know, in my opinion, it's like get it right first and then put it out.
Yeah,
but you're also tied to Ubuntu too, so it's like
very much so. Yeah,
I mean, you can't really do that in their situation, and depending on how many people I don't know, Dan, how big is the team actively that works on Lubuntu?
I think there's like 12 or 15 of us, something like that.
Yeah.
And as far as core people, it's a little less, obviously.
Yeah. So that's going to be a tall order to continually put releases out when you got a team like that.
Right. And because of all the changes that have taken place, I will say that, you know, some of these things, you know, that are aesthetic, we'll call them, which are important. We get that. I think the goal is to get all of those things wrapped up for 2004, which is going to be an LTS release. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Good. Well, thank you, Silent. Vash, you're up, my friend. Did you try out Lubuntu this week?
I did not. I didn't have time to at the beginning of the week, and then at the end of the week, I ended up getting a Desk Mini A300, so I kind of messed with that, but I just didn't get around to Lubuntu, unfortunately.
That's cool. We'll maybe talk about that later on in the show. Sean, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hiya. So, did you get a chance to play with Lubuntu?
I have bad news.
Uh-oh.
I'm completely unprepared.
No, that's okay. So, I mean, how closely, this is a question I've always found quite intriguing, and it's nice to see that we've got like two teams from two different sections of Ubuntu on. How much do you guys interact on stuff that comes? No, does it come downstream from Ubuntu, or does it come? I never know which way it comes, but do you guys have a little moaning session to sort of, oh my God, what have they done now this for? How are we going to cope with this? Or is it just you deal with your own little niche area?
Well, before we kind of all complained silently to ourselves, but this last cycle we actually have a new Ubuntu flavors channel where each of the flavor heads kind of congregate and complain collectively about upstream-ish issues.
Mm-hmm. And has that helped, do you think?
Yeah, it's helped us kind of prepare for some things that are coming down the pipeline. Like it helped us communicate better about dropping like 32-bit because Lubuntu was having difficulty with getting testers and stuff, and we had difficulty getting testers. And
now, how big is the XFCE team, Sean?
Small.
Small.
Yeah. So for Xubuntu, our QA lead actually just finished up. So right now we are without a QA lead, and getting people to test and join in and stuff. A lot of people are running the daily ISOs, but without like reporting bugs or reporting test results, we don't know who else is testing it or how it's going.
Well, that's one of the things. Now, do you find that is the case where being tied to Ubuntu, you're rushed sometimes to get the release out? And what do you do to fix that, or what do you do to work with that?
Yeah, we do often find ourselves rushed. I think every cycle we miss the UI freeze for actually getting our wallpaper. So it's kind of a joke. Oh, hey, the UI freeze is here, so let's do the wallpaper now and get that out of the way. But I mean, having those milestones and those deadlines also helps us kind of keep the project going and make sure that we're hitting certain goals each release.
All right, interesting. Well, thanks very much for that little insight there. Colin, we know you tried Lubuntu because you probably tried 42 other OSs this week as well. How did you get on?
Yes, I tried Lubuntu. A couple of questions I've got is one thing I noticed with the Calamares installer, which I haven't noticed before. I was going to do an entire disk install, and it didn't have that option. Is that just Lubuntu, or is that Calamares all round? Because I had a whole heap of partitions on the disk. I was just going to do a straight out entire disk install, and the option wasn't there.
It probably auto-mounted something, probably a swap partition, because Ubuntu auto-mounts swap.
Right.
So in order to do I think we actually listed this somewhere, and we'll have to figure out a workaround for it. In order to do the erase disk and full install, you'll have to turn the swap off, full install, and then then it'll just go for it after that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me or something. I don't know. So
no, you're not the first person.
Okay.
Manual partitioning as well.
Yeah,
you could do manual, and you could work it out that way too. But
I did the manual.
Swap, I suppose.
Manual's what I normally do, but every now and then I just thought I would do that. But the option wasn't there, so I just went for the manual. So that's all right.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why is you had a swap mounted.
Yep. The other thing is when you actually type in your password on the login screen and hit enter, it takes a long time to get to the desktop. Is that normal, or is there something going on there in that time?
No, not normal. Do you have NVIDIA by any chance?
No, not on that desktop.
No,
and
okay.
I've tried it with NVIDIA and AMD and Intel. Seems to be the same all around.
Interesting.
So it just seems to take just that little while just to do something. It's like it's hanging. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, but that's just what I've
I
experienced.
experienced that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The other question I've got is, can LXQT, because I don't know much about all these tool sets and how they work, but can it get to the point where it can look as professional as Plasma? I don't know. Does it have that opportunity or?
Well, we'd like to think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal. Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay.
So, Colin, can you explain what you mean by professional? What's it currently like?
Just okay, professional. What I'm talking about is just the way it looks. It just like Plasma's got that sort of look about it.
Polished.
Polished. It's got the polish, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's got a bit of polish, which LXQT to me at the moment sort of lacks. And I know it's only young and they're still in process of doing all this stuff. So I understand that. I thought I'd ask the question. That's all, because.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's trying for that for sure.
Okay, all right. The other thing is the window sizing. I noticed that the applications, when you change the window sizes, because when you open PCMan FMQT to start with, it'll have a narrow window. Your boxes are like side by side, two only. So you can you can stretch it out and make it look nice. Now it holds that in memory once you change that, so that's okay. So all the applications seem to remember those sizes, except for the settings boxes. None of those will hold their sizes, I've noticed.
Yeah. Okay. There was some things we're fixing with that too. Especially like somebody had mentioned wallpapers, and for some reason we weren't there. There was a bug fix that came out. We weren't looking at the thumbnails of like wallpapers, which is what you want there. It actually, so PCMan FM is sort of got a little split to it, and it's using libfm. Not to get too technical here, but
right.
There's a little split. So when it pulls up those dialog boxes, it's not the full PCMan FM. So that's some of why it might look a little different.
Right. Okay. So I just found it interesting that everything does resize except for this. When you go into, I think it's let me have a look. Preferences, the LXQT configuration center. Any of those settings you open, if you adjust the box size, it won't remember that box size. So everything in that configuration center. So that was one of the things I noticed. I disagree with Discover. Now, I don't know what Lubuntu's target audience is, but I would have to think if they're looking for new users, Discover is important to have in Lubuntu, because that's the sort of thing that new users like to see, something graphical, something they can click on, install, whereas the Muon package manager I think is great. I think it's awesome, but it's like another Synaptic, which I don't think a lot of people I don't think they would find it too bling bling or polished or whatever you want to call it. So Discover to me is important. So I've tried the snaps and the flat packs. They all work, and all you need to do once you've done the flat pack install. And I was listening to Zeb, I think, on Destination Linux when it comes to flat pack, where you got to go to the Ubuntu quick setup or the Manjaro quick setup or whatever it is for Flatpak. I don't know. I don't understand why these things can't be just installed in the back end, because then you've got to install that, and then you've got to, in Discover, you've got to search for Flatpak, and then you've got to look for the Flatpak back end, and then that'll allow all the Flatpaks to be seen within Discover, just like your normal applications. So, and it runs okay. I've had no issues with it. It seems to be reasonably stable, so I've had no crashes or anything like that. So I'm just talking mainly about the looks and the aesthetics and all that sort of stuff. So, and the functionality and for new users' point of perspective, they're the things I'm looking at. So that was my week with Lubuntu.
Yeah, cool. Good feedback. I will say that we ship both Discover and Muon. They're both there. You got the choice, I guess. So
Yep, that's fine. I think it's good.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Colin. I take it we'll get a video up later on in the week from Lubuntu.
No, I'm busy with some other stuff at the moment, so that will have to come later, I think. So, yeah.
Shocking. What, are you turning into the next Michael, are you?
No. I've just been, I just want to do some videos on how to install Ubuntu in many different ways. So just help some new users out there. So
cool.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing those. Okay, Eriks, welcome to the show. And did you get a chance to try Lubuntu?
I used it for a couple of hours. I guess I'll start with the live media. Due to an user error, the USB key was pulled during the live session. And when I tried to restart the Lubuntu session, it said Lubuntu 1810. So I'm not sure if that's like leftover from the previous release. That's the only way I could actually see the Lubuntu 1810 Plymouth screen come up. Also, when I tried installing the Lubuntu, it picked up my swap partition that's in a different drive, but it doesn't actually mention that it will use it when I install it. I wish the installer had a minimal option for the distro. Not sure if that's possible with Calamaris or that's only used for the usual Ubuntu installer. As far as things that I liked about Lubuntu, I like that it's very responsive, that it's very light on RAM. I like there's an option for volume control, screen brightness for keyboard shortcuts. You can easily change the date from back or in front of the date on the panel. And I like how fast the PCMan FM is. I had many problems with Ubuntu, but I guess I'll list them off. There's no black dark theme for Qt apps. I fixed it by installing Xubuntu, but it's not there by default. The screen tearing, it's not the best. I think Xubuntu has better protection for screen tearing in the latest version. This will be subjective, but the SDDM screen needs to be modernized, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Given how Lubuntu is a light distro, I think they should drop the email client. I think that most people who use computers nowadays, they just use webmail. I don't know if that's their target audience.
I think maybe having a minimal install would be a good idea, right?
Yeah.
That's in the works.
I also think if you're going to install Mozilla Firefox, why not just install Thunderbird too instead of the Trohita email client? I don't think too many people would want to use that email client anyway. So,
yeah, I thought Thunderbird would be a more appropriate application.
Yeah.
And the Wi-Fi icon does not show up if you use the black default panel. It looks very gray. You can't really tell that it's there if you activate it.
The Wi-Fi doesn't show up on Broadcom drivers at all.
No, I'm saying like
no, I'm saying for me, I had a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
As far as alt tabbing, there's no, the window doesn't, you don't see the window when you alt tab. You only see like an outline. I don't know if that's possible with LXQT, but I would like that to either have a thumbnail or actually see the window that I'm selecting when I'm alt tabbing.
Dan, could that be something to do with you don't seem to have? I think I had to go into the settings and find it somewhere to turn Compton on, because I noticed that when you drag the windows, it
That would help with
doesn't
screen sharing, I
display
think.
something. So is that why Alt Tab doesn't show you a little box?
Well, it doesn't show you much of a box anyway. It does give you it just pulls up like a text box with the little icons, not an actual preview of what's in the window.
Gotcha.
Isn't that the standard box that with open box when you're switching windows? Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, it's coming from the window manager. It's not coming from the DE.
Mm-hmm.
Another problem I have with Lubuntu, if you place the panel all the way to the top, the windows go below the panel. They don't like adhere to the panel being on top.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
The search menu, if you search for something, you can't select the results. You have to click like 2 or 3 times to select one of the results. Like click up 2 or 3 times. And as far as personally for me, Lubuntu, I couldn't use it more than a couple of hours due to the lack of window management in the distro. I don't know if that's due to LXQT or that's just preference, but the only thing you can do to manage windows is double clicking the title bar to maximize. There's no dragging to the edge for tiling to the left or dragging to the right for tiling to the right.
Well, you can configure OpenBox to do pretty much anything you want to, but you've got to configure it yourself.
But I think that most distros have that default. They always have an option for a shortcut. Or I think every distro, I can't think of a distro of the Ubuntu flavors that doesn't have that option. You could just easily tile to the left by dragging to the edge corner. And I personally disagree with the whole notion of dragging to the next workspace, because it's much quicker just to select the window and right-clicking it and then selecting the desktop you want to send it to. Or if you want to send to a window by going to the panel and right-clicking the window that you're targeting. I think that's much more simple than actually dragging with the mouse over there.
You're referring to the virtual desktops?
Yeah, the virtual workspaces.
So like if you right-click on the title bar of the application, you can send. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's superior to actually like physically dragging it all the way to the side and then going, because you can't have the tiling by dragging to the edge if you have that also. You have one or the other.
I gotcha. Yep.
And then, I mean, I don't know how many of these issues are just LXQT or is Lubuntu, but my main question for Lubuntu is who is the target audience for Lubuntu? Because I remember before it was mainly like old hardware. It was very light. Is it now? Are they targeting like modern computers? And is this an immediate user or is this like a newbie user? Who is the main target for this distro now?
Well, I will say that it was still, we're not targeting like really old hardware, but it still runs really well on, we'll say, reasonably old hardware. So we are trying to be a lighter, flavor, but not necessarily the lightest to run on your old 386. So somewhere in between, we're trying to modernize the look, and yeah,
modernize. That's the word I was looking for. Modernize.
And it's a work in progress.
Yep. All right. Well, Dan's laying there bleeding unconscious from all of this being hit over the head here.
Actually, a lot of these things are things we probably know and have plans to get fixed in hopefully the near future, certainly for the next release anyway.
Nice. All right. So, Ben, you totally threw me there, mate, because you went off and come back on again. I think you would have been up next had you still been around. So, can you let us know, did you try Lubuntu?
I did, just as the show was starting, and I'm very glad that I tried it, because in perfect honesty, I've only tried LXDE maybe once, but this new XQT, I have to say I'm damn well impressed. I like it. The theming out of the box, I was like Silent. I do have a disability in my eye where dark themes work better for me, so that was one slight concern that I had, but I found it rather easy to figure out where to go to figure out the theme changes, and that was pretty good. I like that. I kind of didn't care for the menu style, though. That was one thing that I didn't care for, but other than that, I tested on 2 gig VM RAM wise and 2 cores, so kind of giving it a little bit more beefy of a VM to test on in VirtualBox. But other than that, maybe, or if I had tested it on a real machine, it would have been a little bit better. But didn't give it the best hardware wise. But other than that, it was fairly quick. Liked it. don't have really much else to say other than I'll give it 2 thumbs up for this one.
Cool, nice. Well,
Yeah, a
the
little
thing
bit
is,
out of my comfort zone, but I like it.
see, I've always been of the opinion that if you're going to try a distro, try it on real metal. But then I'm beginning to realize that there are an awful lot of people out there who run their distros in a VM. So if you don't try it in a VM, you're never going to get all of its nuances, because I realize it doesn't run the same as it would do on bare metal. So no, it was good to hear from somebody who tried it in a VM. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right, Chris, you have good news or bad news for Lubuntu?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yep, excellent.
I love it.
I had the hardest time getting that to install. Namely, I was having problems with the partitioning. I tried all the partitioning schemes available, and what would happen is that the boot flag would never be set on the boot partition, and so it kept saying that there are no bootable devices available. Now, this is something I've been having problem with Calamari, on all forms of Calamari, and it used to be with even on Salient, I was having a major problem. But with Salient was the one where I figured out what the problem was and was able to go back into the live version, set the boot flag, and then have the through gparted, and everything was kosher. With this, it still would not set. I could not figure out what was going on. I finally used a live version of Sabian. Actually, I used the live version of Sabian, went in, used fdisk, set everything up the way I wanted it for the partitioning scheme. Then I went back, reran the installer on Ubuntu or Lubuntu, and was able to get everything working great. I mean, and once it booted fine. I didn't have a problem with it. Let's see here. A couple of things that I noted was one thing was the terminal. Resizing the terminal to what I usually like putting 132 by 43. One, I couldn't fit it on the screen on my laptop screen, which was I think a 14-inch screen. All other distros, I'm able to get that. And also, it didn't tell me what the size of the terminal was. I could not do it through the preferences until I released the button, and it only flashed for like half a second. So I had to release it like 2 or 3 times to find out that no, I'm not getting my 132 by 43. I'm only getting maybe 121 by 25. Yeah, and that was a little more than that, but I mean, it was something close. Let's see, the performance on it, don't have any problems with the performance. It was I remember when I used to run KDE and GNOME on some older hardware back let's see, probably 4.16. I think it was Ubuntu 14, stuff like that. It was laggy like crazy. But the LXF or LXDE, I think is what we're using. That worked great. And even by today, with the other two, with KDE, with Plasma, and with GNOME, it seems to work fine. Let's see here. Then the menu crowding. It seems as though like one of the things I've really been liking about Cinnamon, and I could probably fix this through the Qt manager, but I'm not familiar with that or very well. I mean, I see Derek's things on the various floating and tiling managers, but I can never bring myself to actually go in and start messing around with those settings, because when I look at it, I look at the screen and just stare at it, try to figure out what do I want to change. I don't know. But anyway, the menu, there seems to be a lot of stuff on the top menu. So as soon as you click the button, you have 20 icons there. And if we get a more general of a level at that point, it would be a lot better. I noticed that a lot of distros are moving to stuff that say like Internet Office accessories and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to guess which ones they actually are under, but the general settings at the top, or general names at the top, would be the best, at least as far as I'm concerned. Other than that, I didn't really have a problem. I'm getting used to app. I still don't like the fact that you have to do 2 separate commands to get the files updated. This isn't anything dealing with Ubuntu or Lubuntu or any of the other flavors. Specifically, it all has to do with apt and the way apt works. And so if you're dealing with any Debian, I'm sorry, I keep putting the accent on the wrong syllable. If you're dealing with any Debian, you have to do this if you do the command line for the, I don't use Synaptics only because it's something I haven't tried. Nothing against it. But the one thing I do like is the fact that it's getting a lot better in finding dependencies. So if you have a program that you don't have its dependencies on the system, it will actually go out and get those dependencies, and that's a big improvement. Other than that, I mean, I was having fun with it. I really kind of, for some reason, I really like that default wallpaper, the hummingbird or whatever bird that was. That was really kind of pretty, to the point where I wanted to keep it. So, but
all right,
that's all I really have.
Dig it. Eric, what do you think of Lubuntu, dude?
I have some notes. It's mostly good with some little bad things. I'll get the bad things out of the way, and these are just, I'm not going to rehash. I had a lot of the same issues that other people did, but I thought it was a little strange that there was no welcome screen unless I missed it. There was like, you really just boot into.
You didn't miss it. Okay, yeah, you just kind of boot in, and you're in. Again, I'm not familiar with LXQt at all. I think I tried it once a long time ago. So for me, it was just sort of like, okay, I'm on a desktop, and I really had to like dig around and figure things out. Like you were saying, with which package manager do I use? Which, it's, if you were to put some of that sort of, hey, welcome to Lubuntu, and here's what we're doing, and here's why we do it, and it doesn't have to be exhaustive. I think some distributions maybe spend a little bit too much time on that, but I think it would help. I think it would help sort of ease someone into using what is probably a new desktop for a lot of people. The comment about difficulty changing the wallpaper, I had the same exact thing. It was the first thing I tried, and the default location that came up isn't where the wallpaper is, and the wallpaper is actually in a non-standard location, which is a little strange as well. The file picker has no image preview, so you have to actually go and I'm sure you're aware of all this kind of stuff. And to me, like, the overriding theme of all of this is that it just feels like you're 80% of the way there with LXQT, and that there's just those bits and pieces of polish and connecting everything together. So that's really what most of my complaints were. The theming is a little goofy, just like everybody said. One of the complaints I have is the bottom corner to try to resize a window is like a pixel, and it's so hard to grab that to resize, and it was just kind of frustrating. I found myself as I was using it. Zeb's got a good fix for that.
Oh, okay.
So does that actually work? Because I never stayed on it unfortunately long enough. Yeah. So when you're anywhere near the screen edge that you want to move, hold down your Alt key and then right mouse click and just drag it.
Oh, okay.
And that saves you hunting for that 1 millimeter or one, whatever the smaller than a millimeter is. I struggled for years, and then we went through a little episode on Peppermint where everybody gave all of their ideas on how you can move stuff. And for me, Alt, right mouse click, and you can literally do it anywhere near any of the window edges, and you can go left, right, up and down, do what you want with it. It makes it so much easier and quicker.
No, that's true for most distros anyway.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's probably something I notice in XFCE and now in LXQT, especially because it's so small. You're right, most others are, but I think of like Plasma, and there's probably a good 3 pixel versus 1 pixel. So I mean, it's not that I'm that inaccurate that I can't find it. It's just anyway. But other than that, so the good parts about it is I'm not sure I've ever tried a faster distro than that. I mean, frankly, it once it's up and running, things open so quickly that it is really shocking that when you compare it to the desktop you're running, if you're running a full fat, Plasma or GNOME or something like that, those are quick. And it's not like you're hurting because you're sitting there waiting for something open, but you notice how fast everything opens. And I think that's pretty amazing. And to Zeb's point, I tried it in a VM first. I always do. I'm not going to go through the motion of setting it up in hard. If it doesn't work in a VM, to me, it means I'm probably going to have a problem on bare metal. So, and then I have an older laptop, an old Samsung laptop. It's probably a good 7, 8 years old, and it does not run modern distros very well. I think it's like a Core 2 Duo, maybe. It's not a very powerful system. And Lubuntu runs phenomenally on there. The fans don't spin up. I mean, it runs so well. It's amazing. So I have to give you, major kudos for that. I think the default appearance is pretty appealing. I think it's just the tricky part is if you actually want to change it, you kind of run into some issues. I changed I don't really like the Papyrus icon theme all that much, so I changed it to Breeze, and I think it looks great. It actually kind of reminds me of Plasma or maybe let's say an older KDE, like 3 or 4, which is a good thing in my book. Flatpaks, while they are not working very well for me on any other 1904 distro, they work great on Lubuntu, even on that old laptop that I mentioned. And yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to is I'm not going to knock LXQT that much right now. Just to say that, I think probably in a few more releases, you'll have worked out a lot of these bits and pieces of polish. I mean, nobody here said, oh, it crashed, or nobody here said, oh, it was unusable. It was really a lot of, this just didn't make sense, or you can tell it's not done. And I think that's encouraging that you've come this far and that, you've got some way to go, but you're making progress. And I did want to make one more point. The Late Night Linux podcast, which isn't a work friendly, it's not safe for work, let's say. But they actually had, is it Will Cook?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And episode 60, Will Cook was talking about how the teams work together and how the core desktop team, they're holding to these release schedules and then working with the other flavors. And so if you want an explanation of sort of how that works, that's probably the best explanation I've heard, because I never quite understood the dynamic there, because Canonical really isn't a big company in terms of the people they have dedicated to the desktop side of things. And then each flavor is really on their own in terms of what they do and how they do it, but they can come back upstream and ask the Ubuntu desktop team. So it was actually really an interesting thing to hear from Will himself.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, he's part of the Late Night Linux crew now, so good to have him on there. Dan, we're just going to skip you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, let me give me your synopsis of Ubuntu.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's spot on with their assessment here. Seriously, a lot of these things are things we know about, things that we keep working towards, and actually some of them, honestly, we fixed this week. So I mean, there's a lot of fast development here. Everybody's working hard, working upstream too, and we're pulling them in just as fast as we can. Yeah, just this week, Calamari's actually had 2 different releases too. So I mean, it's stuff is moving very, very fast.
Right.
And so I think 1810, I will say we were a lot rougher back in that release. We've fixed a lot of the things there, but there's still more to go. We certainly want to put some more polish on it. And Eric brought up the welcome screen. That's something that we've been working on. We've got some mock-ups and prototypes and stuff in the works. And if we don't roll it out the next release, we definitely want it for 2004, which is going to be our LTS. So a lot of these things, if we don't see it in the next one, we for sure will by 2004.
Nice.
All right, PZ, you're up, brother.
Okay, let's just start off by saying that for those users that have a single screen system, then Lubuntu is going to be amazing. It's quick. It looks nice out of the box. Yes, there's one or few things that you can tweak, but overall, being as that you've just started out only, about a year and a half ago, maybe, going down the LXQT route, you've done incredibly well. But for me, on my system, everybody's talking about this beautiful hummingbird, yeah? I've never seen it because I had the body on this screen, the beak on this screen over here, and then the tail coming out of the middle. And then when I eventually got my monitors in the right place, there was just this elongated, stretched thing. And no matter what wallpaper you chose, it uses your whole desktop. So for me,
No, that's all right. The audio, yeah, hold on. You know,
wallpaper, you can have it span over 3 monitors. You can set it to scale however you want it. So I did a wallpaper thingy in LXQt because I don't know how to use it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's a great suggestion. Then I mean, that's
yeah, I'll certainly use that if I ever get problems like that again. So, can you hear me now in the stream? Oh,
Yep.
someone's saying sound is back. Cool.
Yeah, they want you to repeat your rant.
No. It's not a rant. It's just a frustration I have because I have this really stupid setup, and I know that it's a lot of problems. Now, so what I tend to do when I'm testing distros, and I don't know why I didn't do it for Lubuntu, is I turn the other 2 monitors off. So I just put up with my 1440 widescreen in the middle. And like I said right at the beginning, if you do that, then Lubuntu is great. So just 2 more things that I want to mention. When you run a program that needs updated privileges, why am I still met with a dialog box that thinks I'm a Unix user?
Yeah.
I mentioned this way back in 1804 when you were first going to LXQT, in a conversation I had with Simon on Telegram. And I said, look, you get a new user come to Linux, and then they're presented with an elevated privilege dialog box that says Unix user.
Yeah.
What's all that about? And it's little things that for me all add up. And I'm going to be honest with you, as soon as I saw those screens and you still had those same old problems, half an hour later I went next. So, but I went back to it later on in the week and thought, no, let's give this a proper chance. And everything was working fine, except I could not configure my displays. So tonight before the show, I did an extreme distro hop, and I'm now, because I just could not get the system set up and working properly for me.
Right.
So, but other than that, I mean, I think you've come a long, long way, and you're doing a really good job. And I understand that I can sit here and say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And then someone in the background is going, what is this bloke rattling on about? You've just talked about 4 weeks worth of work just because you want it to do this.
Right.
So I understand everything that goes on in the background and how complicated it is. And I am so appreciative of you guys doing this for free. Let's not beat about the bush here. You guys don't get paid for doing this unless you're one of the lucky few that works for Canonical. You have to rely on the generosity of the community. And I don't think we've done it in quite a while, Rocco. So if you are out there and you can help support these guys, please go onto their sites and donate a few bucks to help them maintain these distributions. It really is awesome what they provide for us. But
it's not only money, Zeb. It's time. Like, Sean had mentioned about the bug reporting and stuff like that. Like, that is just as much needed as the financial support is. So, I mean, I'm guilty of it, where I don't report bugs when I find them as much as I should. So everybody could help out in that area, even if you don't have money.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm sorry, with Dan and Sean being here, I mean, that's probably, money is one thing, right? But the time it takes to test is probably a bigger factor, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, definitely.
We'll take whatever we can get on that for sure.
All right. There's a couple guys that came in late, but we're like running out of time. So you guys, Adam, Big Pod, Chicken, Ali, JJ, do you guys have anything you'd like to add to the conversation about Lubuntu? Really quickly.
I can't personally because I haven't actually used it in Anger yet. I've used it, but not in Anger. But I find it quite funny. It's fast. And I do appreciate all the time that's gone into it. You know what I mean? I mean, I know what it's like to have bug reports coming and having to sort all those bugs out. And with me, it's through emails, Twitter, Facebook. They come from everywhere. How to do this, how to do that. And it has to be all sorted. It takes a lot of time. So I do appreciate when you're not getting paid, all the work that goes into something to make it the best they can be. And to be honest, Lubuntu is faster than Ubuntu, flat out, easily in more VMs. So yeah, well done, Dan and the crew. Brilliant stuff.
All right. Anybody else?
I also have something to say. The menu search behaved really weird on my system. When I type something in, it just lowered what was showing the category. So let's say if I had one entry after I searched, it would show me graphics. And when I clicked on that, it would open the program.
Is that in the menu you're talking about, or on the main menu? Yeah, because the menu lowers down when you search. Yeah, that's
and
right.
it didn't show the program. It showed, for example, the category graphics. And when I clicked on that, it opened the program.
Right.
And I think I really like that wallpaper.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Also, SDDM is, I so hate SDDM.
Gotcha.
But I understand why you use it. It's Qt based, so it's logical why you use it. But on the other side, LightDM is so small that it isn't even that apparent.
All right.
I understand why you use it.
Adam, Chicken, anything to add? Negative?
I'd say all the points have been covered from my end, although I haven't tested Lubuntu in a while. I'll probably give it a try, although it's sort of, I'll probably wait till there is a minimal install to give it, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll actually do the full install for now, possibly.
All right. So that's our discussion on Lubuntu. Dan, what do you think?
Oh, hey, excellent. All the comments are very much appreciated. I'm sure Simon will watch this back. Another thing is we talked about bug reports, but we've got multiple ways to get not just bug reports. If you're having issues, get support. And you can find all those at lubuntu.me. Feel free to hit us up whichever way, we'll take it.
Yep. IRC, Telegram, all kinds of ways.
Yep.
Dig it. All right. So that means we have to pick a distro for next week. Do you have any ideas what we should pick, Sean?
I think Xubuntu would be a good one.
Yeah, well, you know, we are in the middle of trying all the 1904 releases, so we possibly could win Xubuntu this week.
Yeah.
That's my vote.
Yep. You've seen how brutal we can be, though.
So the question is, Sean, are you going to come back next week to hear all of the comments?
No, he's going to skip out and
sit in this hot seat.
I'll try.
Okay.
Try really hard.
Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up to try? Any other flavors? Are everybody okay with trying?
I'm cool with it.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah, Xubuntu's good.
Awesome.
Well, that's good because I've got a heads up because that's what I extreme distro hop to tonight.
Wow.
Just had to get something up that worked.
Wow.
I did that with Salient OS. 2.5 hours, and I got my system all back up and configured.
As long as that. Wow, I can do Salient in 35 minutes. But then I don't have anywhere near as complicated stuff as you need to do. I just like OBS, ETS, that's it. I'm done. Next.
I will have to say that I blew up my Arch install just to put Salient on that computer. So,
and how's it going?
yeah, it's running perfect. It's running
And did
perfect.
you do the Salient XFCE or the Salient KDE?
The plasma.
The plasma.
You gotta do the plasma, dude. I mean, like, I gotta do the plasma. But that has the other drive in it, which Lubuntu is on this week. So I'll be putting Xubuntu.
Yeah, only Rocco would nuke and pave a working install.
Yes, correct. Well, you know, Derek, I used to have it all down pat. I had each partition had a EFI partition. I had 12 partitions on one drive, so I could distro hop. But the grubs and everything got all goofed up no matter what I did. So there's this computer that I'm streaming from doesn't change now. That computer over there has Salient on them as the main drive in it, and then it has a test drive in it that I'll be using for the distro hopping, and that makes it simple, and I don't have to worry about things getting goofed up for the stream.
Okay, what does it say about me then that I haven't really crashed an install in about 2 years, but I still nuke and pave about every 2 months?
You're like a perfect member of BDLL. That just means that.
And I'm sure Colin and I can testify to, we distro hop like crazy, and if we get something working perfectly, it's great, and then it's like, okay, on to the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
Don't
the
even bother
Just a
doing-
real quick side comment. Has anybody worn out an SSD from how many times they've distro hopped?
Yes.
No.
That's kind of
I
hard.
haven't yet.
It's
My
not
oldest
about
SSD
wearing out. It's about the fact that there are sections in the SSD that get errors that no matter what you do, then there's always going to be errors right there.
I heard you have to leave space that's empty so that it levels out evenly.
There are a ton of different tips, I guess you would call them, on SSDs and NVMEs about you should do this and you should enable trim and you should do, and like there's no real set guidelines anywhere that says definitely this is what you do. It's
all I can say is that the latest SSDs are a hell of a lot better than some of the horror stories I used to hear before. My oldest SSD is a 256 Samsung. It's a 750, I think it is. And no exaggeration, I've probably installed 300 distros on that SSD, and it's still going strong. So yeah, they last a long, long time.
Yeah.
Current SSDs have like hundreds of terabytes of overwrite, and nothing happened.
Well,
I've had no issues hopping on SSDs. I mean,
sorry, forgot my mic was on.
Well, this is the part of the show that's pretty much open to discussion. So anybody that wants to bring up something, they bring it up. But I did want to bring up a shout out to the IRC guys hanging out in the BigDaddyLinux Live IRC channel that we made. So if you want to join, it's on Freenode at pound.
I'm
Check it
glad
out.
you mentioned
Can you
that,
check?
Rocco, because I had a news story to segue into. Mozilla recently announced they're getting rid of their IRC channel on Freenode or wherever they are hosting their channel. They're moving to Discord, which is kind of strange because
Weird.
getting off of IRC and
Uh-oh.
doing a proprietary platform like Discord. Yeah, that's strange for a company like Mozilla, but they're doing it. They say because they don't want people to have to moderate the IRC channel, but you have to moderate Discord. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's
easier
very
to moderate.
Well, we've got Sean and Dan here, and they're intimately involved in various Ubuntu distros. There's a question I want to ask about NVIDIA. NVIDIA settings on 1904 will not save, whether you've sudoed it or whether you've just run it elsewhere and you want to save it in your home directory. Is that a Ubuntu thing, or has that come from NVIDIA? What's going on there?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Hashtag follow bug.
I know in the past the NVIDIA settings have like saved to an Xorg config file, and I know for a long time we've not really used those anymore. So that might be the disconnect, but I can't say for sure about that at all.
But I haven't even been able to get them to save under Etsy x11 xorg conf d /90-nvidia.conf, either there or in my home directory.
Yeah, I don't think the problem is the problem is you just, when you change the settings, you just can't get it to save anywhere. It's just is unable to save the file.
Or
for
if it
whatever
does
reason.
save the file, then you reboot to a black screen.
Well, I haven't been
yeah.
able to get it to actually save the file, whether it's in my home directory or the Etsy folder or whatever. I mean, just have not. It just won't save.
I run a startup script for to block tearing on Plasma.
Yeah, Mark and I from Peppermint worked out a script that I can now run that does it. But I saw a very good YouTube video from Slim, and it was a feature that I wasn't aware of. So if you guys want to save your xorg.conf or your 20-nvidia.conf, when you hit the save dialog box, there's a preview. Okay, it's only 2 lines.
Yeah.
But go to the top left, highlight the whole thing, copy it, paste it into an empty notepad folder, name that notepad folder xorg.conf or whatever you want to do, and then sudo move it back into the directory. And that works. Which is
Thank
really
you.
quite bizarre. But yeah, Slim Clatterford on YouTube did a very nice. Okay, there's a few rants as he goes on about the same old why is this happening? But it's actually a very good tip if you want to get that file saved, and it's the only way I know to get it saved, and it now works.
Yeah, I don't know why that window was so small. It's really tiny, isn't it? It's just
It does-
ridiculous.
It does resize on certain distros.
Does it?
It
I
does,
haven't come across that yet. So it's really weird.
I do want to mention though that if you haven't seen the blog post by Frank on the BigDaddyLinux blog, you should go read it. He compiled over the last couple of weeks everybody's thoughts on what a new user is and what distro you would give them, being a friend of theirs. So this was like a massive amount of work for him, and he did such a great job of putting it together.
Yes.
So thank you, Frank, for all the hard work.
Yeah, well done, Frank.
And thank you for being patient with us getting stuff to you.
Right?
Thanks. The only thing I hope is that I did very minor editing, and I hope I did not change the voice of anyone. I think everything came out where at least hearing most of the people before, I kind of read everything in their voice that I've come to used to on Biddle, so it was kind of strange that way.
But what was interesting though is, and I think Popey mentioned it, you ask a simple question and get 10 answers.
Yep.
There wasn't a single answer that was the same about what is a beginner. Awesome piece of work. Thank you very much, Frank.
Yep.
Yes. The one piece of news I wanted to bring up, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but with the Notre Dame burning down, the people who made Assassin's Creed, in order to make that game more realistic, they went in and did laser scanning of every accessible inch of Notre Dame, and their scans are so accurate and complete that they are actually going to be the blueprints for the rebuilding.
Wow.
Oh,
That is
whoa!
That's really
Wait,
cool.
I don't think they're the only one. There may be other archaeological people who have done this. I think I've seen a PBS special on Notre Dame and its construction and medieval construction, something like that, where they actually scan Notre Dame as well. So they're not the only ones who done that. So
No, but I did hear that their scans are the ones that are going to be used as the basis for the rebuild.
boy, that's like
Yeah.
That's mega. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
yay technology.
Yep. All right. Come on. Who else?
I
Anybody
wanted
else got
to,
something?
I don't know if people follow the Adventures in Linux and KDE blog, but they do this usability and productivity every week. They do a post about what they've been working on.
Nate Graham.
Yeah, neat. There's the top one this week. I've been using Plasma for a few years again at this point, off and on, and then for the last year constantly. Anyone who uses it, you know that whenever you open a settings dialog, sometimes that window is not the right size, not even by a long shot. It's just way too small and you have to resize it.
Yes.
First thing they mention, system setting pages written in QML that are open standalone, so not as part of the main system settings, now have the correct window height by default. It's little usability things like that. This fixes the fonts, workspace behavior, mouse, touchpad, and launch feedback pages. And I don't know how much time it took to fix that, but I can't wait to get this, this release in Frameworks 5.58 and have that work. It'll be amazing. It's been one of my
just little touches.
Those are little things that go along with that. I will say there'll be the cuts and nicks that keep people from certain desktop environments, like little things like that you're not going to put your finger on that, but it's like, why is this opening like this? And those little things add up, and those are the things that actually go into a release of, say, a different version of Plasma. That is a perfect example of the hard work that goes into where everybody's like, so they did that. That's something that drives people nuts. I can tell you it drives me nuts because I'm
yeah, and I've just never understood it because it's no one's looked at this. I'm the only human being that's ever opened this setting and gone, wait, why do I have to, So anyway, I was just scanning. I usually read those every week, and whenever I saw that, I just was blown away by that. I had one other thing. So it's come up over the last few episodes where people ask about a file manager not opening in root mode. I hate to sound like an idiot, but can someone please explain to me why that's important?
Well, it's much easier to move files in and out of the Etsy folders.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of being able to move
convenience.
Access to restricted file system.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I figured it was, but I mean, I do that through the terminal, so I didn't think it was a thing.
Security.
I do it through the terminal, but if I happen to have the file manager open, I don't like switching to the terminal when I already have the file manager open.
Yeah, and it's like when I see someone in a video that's showing you how to change the permissions of a file through the file manager, and I always sort of cringe a little bit because I'm like, God, just learn how to use chmod and get it over with.
Not everybody has that. Yeah, but not everybody has that thought process. Not everybody can sit there and go and read a man file and work out chmod 777 or 666 or
444.
And do you use chmod or chown? There's so many confusing things. But why bother when you right mouse click, go to permissions and go tick 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 next?
But here's that. Go ahead, Chris.
As a system manager once told me when I was trying to find out why a printer kept being mapped, no matter what we did to, kept being mapped to a OPT port. It was, he says, you've been Macified. Okay, meaning that we couldn't do anything unless we were doing it through the GUI. As soon as he said use NetUse, this is a Windows environment, use NetUse from the command line, sure enough, there was the problem staring us right in the face. So, I mean,
that has come around, and a lot of people say, "Oh, why do you need to do system management through the command line when you got the tools in the GUI?" It only presents you with the information that it thinks you need. So,
Well, to add on to Zeb's point, Eric, you had mentioned about, why would you just learn how to use chmod? That example is one of those things where you don't use all the time. Like, I don't need to put files into root folders very often. So even though I know how to use Town, and I'm not always maybe going to remember exactly the specific line I need for each individual thing to give it each permission. So it's so much easier than to me to refresh my memory and search do a Google search or whatever for this specific line than to do it in the file manager.
That's why I asked, because I knew there had to be some reason that people were interested in this, and it just from my usage and perspective, I wasn't seeing it. So,
well, as somebody that uses the command line a lot, occasionally I will open up a graphical file manager if I happen to be in, one of the top level directories and I want to edit, a config file or something as root. It would be a pain if the file manager wouldn't let me. And I have to go back and open a terminal. Well, yeah, you should have just started there. Well, if I was already in the terminal, that's where I would have been, but I already had the file manager open anyway. So just let me do what I want to do in the file manager. So.
And sometimes when you go into that root directory, you end up with a solus effect. So,
So is the compromise then, because Chicken mentioned security, and I agree with this, right? So if you don't know what you're doing, right, one of the beauties of Linux and Unix-based systems is the permissions, so that you don't do something stupid without knowing what you're doing. So is the compromise then that you have to switch to that mode? Is that what makes sense? Is open as root, or?
Yeah, you can click open as root in most.
Okay.
I've broken that rule.
You open a terminal at the folder you're in. So if you're in, say, in etc., you just right click and open terminal here, and you're in there. And you just
And that's what I do. I just do the open in terminal. If I have to get to the terminal, it's just right there. So
yeah, just do an F4 or whatever.
So we're talking about like changing file permissions and ownership and things like that. Are we talking specifically about things that are in the root folders, or are we talking about normal files and stuff?
Anywhere.
It could be anywhere.
I think anything that isn't a root folder, anything that's in like a user folder, switching permissions and stuff like that with the file manager makes perfect sense, because even Windows does it, because you just right click, make it executable, right click, trust this, that. Like, it makes sense, but I feel like it is a little bit dangerous to enable that via the file manager. And so I think if file managers do enable that type of functionality, there needs to be a very clear and apparent border at which your user space ends and your system space begins. It needs to be there. Like, I feel like that functionality, maybe it's necessary, but I feel like the borders between those two should be much more apparent, and it should warn you about it much more obviously, rather than just root mode, because root mode is not that scary.
And I guess too, the thing of, we're talking about people changing file permissions. Like, nobody who doesn't even know what that is going to ever do it. So I guess that's my presumption, is if you even understand why you're changing a file permission or why you're editing a file in a system configuration, you probably, I guess,
are running Windows anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's just not files on root. It's files like if you mount a hard drive and you have files on there, it's not going to allow you to change any of them or write to it.
Right. We have set permissions on your mount folder.
I feel like this might be a fundamental flaw in how file permissions work, though. I think that restrictive file permissions should only exist if they're like set manually, rather than them just always being restricted to one particular creator.
Well, I mean, you always want to prevent someone from actually like say you just grab a coffee real quick at your favorite coffee shop while your laptop's still open. Well, like you were rushing over to pick up your order, like, hey, I'll leave this open for a bit, and then a rogue hacker comes to your keyboard and goes to your file manager and messes with your system.
Or you go to Best Buy and install a Linux.
Well, they shouldn't know your password anyway. They should not know your password, should they? That's the thing. That's where the security comes in, right?
Also, leaving your laptop open in a coffee shop is a security
That's
issue
beside
by
the point.
itself.
If they're going to be a hacker, they're going to know how to do it anyway. So they'll drop straight to a terminal and go bosh.
Yeah,
I think the compromise here is having a file manager that also has a terminal built into it. So you're welcome, Dolphin.
Like Dolphin, yeah.
Yeah. Best file manager on the planet. Thank you.
Here to save today.
No, that's Destination Linux. That's not Michael. It says so.
What?
It says so.
It just sounds like Michael.
Just saying.
I'm glad Michael
And
brought
you
it
can
up.
have an inbuilt terminal in Nemo. It's just an add-on. Thank you, Nemo. Best file manager.
It just added it. But yeah, welcome to like 10 years ago in Dolphin.
Wow.
Hey, Rocco, did any of you guys try to switch out PC Man FM with Dolphin in Lubuntu 1904?
No, I did not. Actually, I was talking to Dan. I wanted to see if Lubuntu or PC Man FM had the ability to do the right-click options. So, like to open his root and that stuff.
Well, if any of you were,
I just didn't get a chance
That's
to.
a tool. You can open his root. You just drop it down from the menu.
Yeah, that's what Silent was talking about, wasn't it?
Open
Yep.
his root.
Fair warning.
If you need to open a terminal, you just hit F4, just like Dolphin. It's the same.
The Dolphin's the best way for the terminal stuff. You want to do like individual things. You want to do a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I still use the terminal app, but it's Ranger. It's an awesome file manager and the terminal.
Yeah.
But it's also mouse aware and keyboard access, so it's really fast and really easy to use. And you don't have to use you don't have to use commands or anything.
I tried adding PC Man FM Qt to Xubuntu, but I think it brings in the whole desktop to it.
Possibly. But just quickly, in YouTube chat, Dolphin said that hacker's going to get hit in the face.
With your coffee.
Dan, do you know how Lubuntu has the whole desktop packages set up in regards to the file manager? Because one of the issues that I found was if you remove the file manager that shipped with it, it rips out like half of the desktop.
Yeah, the desktop's pretty integral to having PC Man FM. It does a lot for your desktop for sure. Yeah, the
PC Man FM is also part of
it. Yeah, it's tight. Yeah.
So why not just leave that and add in Dolphin?
Because I don't like duplicate programs, because eventually at some point I'll go to open something and it'll end up opening with PC Man FM than something else because it's installed and it sees it.
You can just change the defaults for that.
I have, but sometimes it just does not care. It's like when you set your default browser and it still opens. With
I agree,
another
Chicken. There are just times when it doesn't work.
And we deal with those times and close and reopen.
So
That's why I run Arch.
Got him.
By the way.
I had a problem with Hannah Montana. That problem.
I seen the video on what is it? Learn Linux YouTube channel. The April Fool's joke. That was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Derek, didn't you do a review of it?
Yeah,
a while back.
Yeah, I think Michael helped the Linux TV guy on that one because he sure hasn't produced his own one.
Yeah, he must have, Zeb. I'm still waiting.
It's stored in the folder with Rocco's Unity 7 video.
Yep. Wow, Dave, you got to go there.
I made it.
I went there with Solus.
I don't think that I even have that Unity 7 video anymore. It was probably on one of my past distro hard drives.
So, Rocco, I noticed in the Telegram chat that you got all excited about a new Umix that's come out.
Yep. Tony George released.
Have you not jumped to it yet?
I did not. I was trying Lubuntu, man. I mean, I only got so much time in the world, But he did release new ISOs for Bionic and Dingo. So you want to try them out?
I did mention that it was $11 to download. Is that right? Or
there's a free ISO to try, but but the regular ISO that comes, like it should, is $11.
Rocco, would you call that a triso?
Exactly. You are the man, Chicken.
Well, it's freeware, and shareware and bloatware.
But if you're interested in Unity yet, it's not dead because it's still alive on Umix OS. Man,
it's also not dead because the community is working on it too.
In active development or what?
Yeah, but not not like a ton, but there's a Unity remix. People trying to make one for like an Ubuntu flavor, but they have to get sponsored by some other bunch of people, and they have to get they have to have a certain amount of time of development releases and stuff before they're allowed to be a flavor. So they're still working on that part. And there's also the Unity 8 stuff that still exists. Everything is awesome.
All right, Ben, you wanted to bring up something. Ben.
Muted, Ben.
He's hopping again.
He did want to bring up he makes his own Hackman Linux, and he wanted to bring it up and talk about it. So hopefully we'll have time to bring it up.
I just want to find Lubuntu, by the way.
I'm here, guys. Sorry.
He's there.
What do you want to bring up, dude?
Well, my distro is based around Arch. It started out as a project with me and Matthew Moore about a year ago, and it started originally as Arch by MM for him, and he wanted to make something really super simple that people didn't have to go download Arch the stock way, because it's not exactly new user capable, but Arch is really not that difficult, but it's command line installing, and not a lot of Windows or Mac users coming over to our platform are going to want to do that. So the challenge being, we decided to make a little something that a lot of new users could install that would want to install, instead of having to go on like Ubuntu or something where they have to go hunting PPAs all over the place. So we made something that originally was using a CLI installer from the PackBang installer or whatever, and then we copied that over into my distro, and I just edited it a little bit to reflect what we wanted, and then later down the road we got all the themes in there, and then everything like that we wanted, and we have a Master Yoda looking wallpaper with the Hackman logo on it and all that, and so it's not bad. But then we recruited Silent Robot here to help with the Calamari installer, and so now it's a heck of a lot easier than it was, and so it's basically Arch for the masses, you might say. So yeah, so
please don't.
Sorry?
Arch, if you want to make it easy, install Arch, feel free. But Arch for beginners is going to end badly. It's just don't promote it to people.
It's meant for everybody. It's not just meant for new users. But
the same thing that Manjaro people say, the same thing Terragos people say, and everybody else is based on Arch. Arch and everything based on it is not meant for beginner users for Mac and Windows. They're going to be completely lost. Even if you make something that's very simple, if the second anything goes wrong, they're going to have no idea how to fix it and no idea how to get help. It's just not going to just make an easy installer for it. That's awesome. But don't promote it to people.
Most Windows users even know how to fix stuff on Windows. We have to be aware of that.
Exactly. There's a lot of people like that. Just don't promote it.
How do they know how to fix it on Ubuntu or Mint?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if they're not going to know, they're not going to know. It doesn't matter what distro they're in.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that there's a lot more people who are willing to help with it, and there's a lot more tutorials, and there's a lot more bigger communities for it, and they don't have the stigma of people, coming to different sections of Arch community and getting yelled at for whatever. Now,
I will agree.
You can get yelled at on the Mint forums as well. You can get yelled at anywhere where you're going to find an idiot who's trying to help people by saying RTFM.
That's true too, but I'm just saying the majority of the people are more friendly on the user-friendly distros, and the Arch, and when Arch goes bad, it goes really bad.
Another thing is the package manager. Arch is, I got used to it. It's fine. It's reasonable, but apt is human readable. That's just a huge benefit.
Well, aside from, I probably myself would not recommend it to new users. What else, Ben?
Well, it's not meant for new users. It's for those users who kind of know the terminal, who kind of have a background somewhat in Linux. That's the point. That's the point I was trying to make. It's not meant for new users, but so should have some kind of idea. But the what else it has is it has PAMAC, a GUI updater and application tray thing, so that way, if someone does install it, they can get automatic updates and search for software without having to open up a terminal if they don't want. And it's got a pre-configured, pretty nice looking XFCE theme, like I said, a lot of software pre-installed, and it's had about several hundred downloads on SourceForge, so it's out there for anybody who wants to download it, try it out.
Ben, I tried to try out your ISO a couple of days ago, Ben, and I couldn't get it to boot into the live environment in a VM. I tried it in VirtualBox, and no matter the free driver or the proprietary driver.
Well, that's odd because that's odd, Derek, because I did test it on a lot of machines, including VirtualBox, and it booted fine for me. So I don't know what you did, but
I downloaded the ISO.
I don't know what you did, Derek.
It was a loose nut between the seat and the keyboard.
Okay. That's weird, but
it might be a bad download. I should re-download the
yeah, I would re-download it because I'm actually on it right now on my machine. I just did a clean install and it's working fine for me.
No. What's the name again?
Hackman Linux.
Ben, if you put the link in the Zoom chat, we'll put it in YouTube.
Ben, I really, can I ask you, is that intentional, the name Hackman, like Pac-Man? Is that?
Well, the name actually comes from me and a friend were talking on Skype of all things, and we were just having a shooting the breeze kind of thing, and he came up with the name for me. It was like, no, Batman, no.
I love it.
It's a play on Batman, so we just stuck with that for the name of the OS.
It's convenient.
I'd be very disappointed if you don't have NetHack in there.
Yeah, it's got just because Silent Robot told me about this, it has the ALSI terminal trick in there as well. So yeah, it's got its perks in there. So yeah,
maybe that should be the jingle when it starts up. Hackman.
I'll see about maybe doing a guitar loop in there.
No, please don't.
Well, no, all you got to do now is when you get BigDaddyLinux, the show come out, just grab Colin's little snippet, and I'm sure he'll give you
yes.
LT3 and have that on there.
Well, Ben, like I said to you before, we are in the middle of trying the 1904s out, but we will definitely will be trying out Hackman in the future here.
Yeah, whenever. I'm in no hurry. Just trying to get as much publicity for it, so I'm in no hurry for it. So yeah.
Has it changed? Has it changed over time? Because I did do a video on Hackman quite a while ago, but I don't. Has it changed since then, Ben? Has it?
Well, it doesn't have the terminal installer anymore. Like I said, it has Calamari now with some custom theme.
Okay.
And if you happen to experience any slowness during that, it's normal. It's the way Calamari acts. So yeah.
This is what will happen when you change like workspaces.
Are you trying to get Are you trying to get this stream banned or what?
Yeah,
I mean, really.
It's less than 5 seconds.
What more can we say? Good night.
That was maybe 2 seconds. You're fine.
I had a stream of mine demonetized the other day for playing a piece of music of me performing.
Wow.
That's because you were that good.
I got a copyright strike violation for me playing something.
You were that good, Derek.
Yeah.
So just a quick one for Rocco. You said that Umix has a free version.
Yeah.
The link's gone.
Yeah, I've just.
It says Umix is normally he hid it in one little section of all the text, and you had to find it. I've just hovered over every single word on his GitHub page. There is no free link anymore.
I will have to try to find it. He might have taken it off, Zeb. I don't know for sure. I know that it was available free. He did hide it, but I'll try to find it and we'll see if we.
Yeah, Rocco. Not there at the moment. Yeah.
Tom Cruise, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier about the whole SSD-ware thing. All you're doing whenever you try and like create space at the beginning or end of the drive or give yourself space, like the controller handles all of like the wear out kind of stuff. So all you're doing is just making you have less space. So like, don't believe any of these like life hack SSD tips because they're just
Well, that's why I said there's no definitive answers anywhere. There is all these tips and things that are always said. You know what I mean? Like enable trim. And do you really need to enable trim on the newer SSDs? Nobody will give you a straight answer.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, we get a straight answer from Maverick right there.
Right.
Yeah, and if you go on to the website of these manufacturers, there are no instructions there as to
because they've already got it handled with the microcontrollers. It's already
Well,
done.
I was watching a Kerry Holzman video, and Kerry Holzman does a lot of tech. He's a Windows guy, but he does a lot of tech stuff. He does a lot of PC builds, and he took a brand new Samsung as NVMe, and he ended up downloading the Samsung driver because even the Windows driver doesn't allow the Samsung NVMEs to perform at their highest level. So right out of the box, a brand new NVMe, he's downloading a driver directly from Samsung. I mean, what do we have on Linux as something like that? I mean, like we don't even have a
having
chance.
to download drivers for your hard drive or your flash drive or like.
We got kernel 5.
Yeah, that should handle it. That's all we...
Meanwhile, back at the kernel.
Oh my gosh. No, it's a shame because you buy this new hardware and you think you're getting the best, and yet you're really not getting the performance that it's states that you're going to get, because in order to get that, you got to get that latest firmware update. So
you got to plug it into the Wi-Fi.
Not on Lubuntu, you can't.
Broadcom.
Broadcom's out. They could have installed it beforehand, but it wasn't the finest firmware. It is quite logical to do an update on everything you can.
Have any of you guys tried the biggest 1904 release, Kden Live 1904, that just came out?
I have not, Derek.
No, I haven't tried that yet.
It's wonderful.
It is. It's quite nice.
Sounds good.
I've had some issues.
You've had some issues, Eric?
Yeah, the timeline editing. I was having problems with the slice tool. I don't know what it was. Like it was just, it wouldn't move. I'd switch from S to X, S to X, S to X, because you switch back and forth, and I just
don't even switch. Not worth it.
The slice tool was the only problem I had. I had issues where like when I was cutting things, it would just kind of like if it was on multiple tracks, they would just like two of them would just move apart from each other.
Yeah.
All I did was cut. It cut perfectly, but they would just move on the timeline. So
the good news is that it forced me to go look at other editors again, just to see what the state of the state is, kind of deal. And stuff's getting good. Shotcut, there's a lot of work going into that. Flowblade. I hadn't used Flowblade in years, and it's actually, there's a 2.0 release that came out last year, and it's pretty decent. It's not perfect. It's not as capable as Kden Live maybe, but for what I'm doing, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing.
That's why Michael doesn't have his camera on, because he was using Kden Live in the his hair.
Yes.
Michael, what were you going to say about the don't use the
use a slice tool? Because going back and forth, it's not worth it. You can just hover the playhead or put the playhead wherever you want and hit Shift R, and it will just cut where it is, and you don't need to go to the slice tool at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's very convenient.
Speaking of Kden Live, you guys know how like they snapped KDE at like the desktop and all that stuff is like, right? Can we get a Kden Live snap? Like, why is that not?
They have an app image. Why do you want to snap?
Because I don't want to use an app image that doesn't update itself. Like, I want it to actually update as it's.
Use the Flatpak.
Well, the issue is that the Flatpak and the snap are made by like community people, not by the Kden Live team. The Kden Live team only make app images.
Oh, I see. So they don't have like official.
Right. They don't have anybody who's KDE doesn't have like a snap person, although they do have a ton of snaps. So it would just be like someone joining the team for Kden Live to make snaps.
You could
That's
just
right.
run Arch, then it would stay updated.
That's the spirit.
By the way.
That's how I get it.
Yeah, mine's updated.
If Nate was here, he'd say tumbleweed, so I'll throw that out for him.
Yes, or tumbleweed.
Thank you.
Well, there was
Or rawhide on Fedora.
Oh, let's
there
not
was
go
a
crazy
YouTuber
now.
that just, I think yesterday released a video of the top 5 free and open source videos. It was video editors, and it was actually pretty informative. Darn if I can remember his name.
Well, there are other editors, and some of them are pretty decent, like Eric said, but none of them give you the flexibility and features that Kdenlive give you.
You know, and I think the biggest complaint that most people, it's like Michael's complaint about non-destructive editing in GIMP. It's people want that hardware acceleration, especially if they're doing 4K videos. So if you go out to Reddit or you go out to places where professional video editors are playing around, I think that's their biggest complaint is you've got this system with this incredible hardware and you can't utilize it because these Kdenlive, none of the open source editors do hardware acceleration very well.
Shotcut does acceleration on the rendering, but not on the viewing and editing.
Yeah.
So you can technically take some of the stuff from Shotcut and put it into Kdenlive and have the rendering done through GPU as well. But it only works for NVIDIA, that I think. And it also depends on like specific proprietary drivers that you have to have, not even like the regular ones. You have to have a certain version in order to work. And I don't think that the AMD ones work. I don't even know if there is a method for Shotcut to do AMD rendering.
Well, Shotcut, there is that you can actually enable the hardware through an INI file. They took it out because it was so problematic, but you can still do it if you have the right kind of system. To your point, Michael.
Okay.
Well, Team Green for the win. Is that what you said, Michael?
Do what?
Did you say Team Green for the win?
No, I said if you wanted to torture yourself, you could use Team Green if you wanted to. But or you can get a 1650, which is overpriced and underpowered by everything. There's a good option for you. So there's the main thing is that Kdenlive is the most powerful and the most featureful and all that stuff for the open source field. Like if you get into the professional level and you get into proprietary stuff, there are things that are better for sure. And I think that the hardware acceleration point that Eric made is good, but I think there's another level of certain features that are just not available in anything else other than like maybe Lightworks. So like Premiere Pro has like so many cool features.
The color tools and stuff like that.
Yeah. And also there's things that there's things that are in Kdenlive that are not really in it. You know, there's like speed ramping you could do in Kdenlive, but you can't really do it to the same level. So like you can create an animation in Kdenlive and it is what it is. And in Premiere, you can create an animation and you can take the curves and you can manipulate the actual animation to do a different, like a slower speed up and then control the exact point where it starts to do the speed up. That kind of thing is where professionals are wanting. They want that fine detail. So until we get something like that, we're not going to have like a comparison.
Have any of you who've used Kdenlive to edit videos, have you tried to add like transparent or assets with transparency on them? Like
yes, often.
Why do you have to add an effect just for a transparent image to work? I've always had to add an alpha channel, even though the PNG image already had it.
And you haven't used the latest version like in a long time. It's been like 6-7 months since they've had that fixed. You just take a PNG file, drop it in, and automatically applies it itself. And it doesn't even create an effect. It just sees that it's a PNG file, sees it has alpha, and just applies it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep, that was working for me even back when editing Destination Linux.
Yeah, like 1802. That's when they started it, I think, which is like last year.
Really?
I think that's when they did it, but I don't remember exactly when they did it. I think it was 1802.
Okay,
so for hardware acceleration on the timeline when you're editing, does proxy clips, would that be the workaround then?
Yeah, proxy clips are available in Kdenlive as well, and it just allows you to do previews before you actually try to play it. It'll just kind of like render a smaller version and show you the smaller version.
I noticed too that the Kdenlive, I hadn't seen this before, but there's actually a quality setting on the timeline where you can set it from, I forget what the options are, but from a preview mode to a, you know what I'm talking about? There's a little drop
you can lower the quality for what it displays in the preview, and it's a lot easier. But I think that they're probably the most beneficial thing is not beneficial, but if you do effects and you want to and they're very elaborate and you want to check out if they're working or not, the timeline is not the best place. They have a zone selection editor that you can just move the zone to where you want to edit to check out that render, and it will render just that part and then show you what it looks like.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you, in the research that I was doing where I did find all these other editors, I mean, Kdenlive far and away, there's a lot of interest around it, and not to take anything away from it with the little issues that I've had, because it is an amazing project. It's such a hugely complicated piece of software. And it's amazing that it does what it does and that they continue to work on it and make it better. I mean, it's incredible. The fact that everybody here uses it to produce really good quality, work. So, I mean, Derek's using that for DT and Destination Linux and Tux Digital, and I mean, everybody uses it.
Yep, pretty much.
I don't.
I don't.
I just go live.
DaVinci Resolve every day of the week.
Well, see, here's the rub, Silent. That's what I was trying to install. That's what I was trying to install with the root folders files when I blew up Solus. So it's all DaVinci Resolve's fault.
Yeah, DaVinci Resolve is officially only supported on CentOS and Red Hat.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I also
financial
run
pain
AMD now,
support, but it will work on any distro.
Not any distro.
Yeah.
There's a
Pretty
lot of
much.
breakage points.
Pretty much now.
I had it on Kubuntu 1810. It ran. It wasn't pretty, but it ran.
Heriton Manjaro worked completely fine.
You can try and force it into its place, but there's a lot of spots in which it just does not work the way it should.
Well, they've changed it up now. It's got a GUI installer. It does all the heavy lifting itself now. You don't
On
have
other
to do
distros now?
Yeah, you don't have to do any funky sim linking.
That's
Oh, well,
great.
that's
No longer
nice.
using
It runs
weird
out of the box
arbitrary
on
shell
Pop
script.
OS.
That's correct. Yes, yeah. That's,
Oh, I'm definitely going to install that then. There's no question about
Goodbye, Plop OS.
it.
So
Yeah,
we're
Rob
going
is
to
gonna
do
mute
DaVinci
his
Resolve
machine.
challenge.
All right, let's change the subject. Sean, do you have Sean? Do you
Just remember,
have any
Rocco, your NVIDIA? You have to install CUDA
Pixels out
first.
of place.
CUDA first? All right. Sean, do you have any references for us this week to trying Xubuntu or anything we should be looking for in the new version? Checking it out.
If you go to my website, bluesaber.org, I actually did a very large post about all the major changes. It's the most recent update, the Xubuntu 1904, the exhaustive update. I'll paste a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be good. We can put it in YouTube.
That's great.
But yeah, there's lots to look out for, but take it for a spin, have fun.
See how I changed that subject? That was really smooth, wasn't it?
John, let's go back to
Oh man! All right, we got a few minutes left. Anybody want to bring up anything before we go?
Rocco, I'd just like to point out that with jokes like that, you should be wearing these glasses.
I do have sunglasses, just not with me. One of these nights, we're going to have to do a sunglasses night.
Sunglass night.
I don't own
I
sunglasses.
do not have any sunglasses.
Oh, come on!
I
I mean,
we all can get aviators.
We did a hat night, did we not? And like everybody had some type of headwear.
Or a shark helmet.
See Dave's headwear? See? Everybody had some type of headwear. We're going to have to do that again soon.
Yeah, sure.
Did Dave suggest it by any chance?
No, you didn't.
I think it'd be really interesting to see how many people turned up to a pajama edition of Big Daddy.
Oh my gosh. I
What
can't
makes you
believe you
think
just
I'm
suggested
not
that.
Wearing my pajamas.
This is a YouTube
And people who don't wear pajamas know you can't turn up.
I sense the force is strong with that one.
Oh,
Then nobody would show up.
Yeah, that was my biggest mistake, wearing my dressing gown with Rocco. That was it. I was done.
The force is strong or the Schwartz?
Wait. He's talking about the Destination Linux episode where he put on his hoodie. It was awesome.
Keep in mind, everybody's, this is chest up, right? So nobody knows what's happening down there. We don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing those.
Keep in mind that I record everything. Everything.
Oh God.
Everything.
Same.
I'm still not going to be like English Bob and stand up and show everybody my pants.
Okay, we don't. Yeah, we didn't need that.
Family friendly show.
Right?
Well, oh boy. Well, I actually
Let's
went
talk
ahead-
about how Dairy Queen should stop doing the stupid dumping upside down thing and drive through. Why do they do that?
We have a custard place that does the same thing. They insist on doing it every time, and I'm just like, you really don't have to.
The concrete mixer.
Yeah.
It's to show, hey, it doesn't spill. Yeah, but in 5 seconds it will melt and it will spill. Give me a lid.
So I think with at least Dairy Queen, it's just a policy that if it spills, you get a free one.
Yep.
No, that's only when they first do it.
Yeah, but do they clean your car if it spills as well?
Right, exactly. The best part is that they'll do it when you order 3 and you're like, what are you doing? I can't eat all 3 at the same time anyway, and it's dangerous to eat one while you're driving. What is this rule?
Yeah.
Okay, so back on Linux.
All right, back on Linux.
I'm gonna guess that when
all right,
you were
so
eating whenever you came on stream. Yeah.
all right, so on that note, everybody gets the last word. PZ, last word, brother.
As much as I enjoy all of these distro hopping, there is still only one distro for me, and that's the Mighty Pep. You can just install it, forget it. It just works every day of the week.
Peppermint OS. Yeah.
FMPEG and Venk.
Yeah, NVENC works fine.
Works?
Works fine because we're still on 1810.
Big Pod pulled half his hair out trying to compile NVENC this past week.
And I gotta say, NVENC works with FFmpeg, just not with OBS.
Dan, last word, brother.
Well, thanks for having me on. As always, enjoy and appreciate the feedback, and we will, take that and hopefully regroup and implement some of those things. So, really do appreciate it, and always have a good time here.
Eric, last word, brother.
Thanks for the stream. Highlight of my week as always. You guys are too much fun. I wish I could do this every day. This is like my virtual community. I really dig it. So thanks, everybody. Have a great week. And to echo Zeb's comment, Xubuntu for me, I keep coming back to it over and over. So they're doing something right.
Very nice. Chris, Obi-Wan, last word.
Come on, there we go. I had something pithy to say, and I don't remember what it is. I just love this community. I love doing this on Saturday nights. Thank you for letting us have. And it's great seeing Derek here and some of the other guys who Allie, haven't seen Allie for ages, and it's been good seeing some of the old guard show up as well.
Very nice. Eris, last word.
I want to thank Rocco for the stream tonight. And since Sean Davis is here, I want to thank him for Xubuntu. I used Ubuntu for like over a year, and thank you very much for that distro.
Very nice. John, last word.
Thanks for having me on the stream. Way to go, Dan and the Lubuntu team. You guys have done great work, especially moving everything to LXQ. It's a huge undertaking, and you guys are doing great.
Thanks.
Awesome. Bash, last word, brother.
Thanks for the stream as always, and hopefully we'll be back next week here.
Oh yeah, you know it. Silent Robot, my man.
Thanks for doing this, Rocco. It's always a pleasure to join this. A great community, always great conversation. Let's hope for many more.
Let's hope. Dave.
Thank you, Rocco, for my sanctuary. Thank you, Dan and team, for a wonderful distro in Lubuntu. Thank you, Silent Robot, for Salient OS, a distro I could extreme distro hop to knowing it would just work. And thank you all for putting up with me. See you next week.
You got it.
Steve, last word.
I want to thank a lot of you guys that's been showing up on my streams. I appreciate the support. It's been fun doing these distro testings and that. Not to be a parrot to Zeb, but it just keeps reminding me how good Peppermint is for me, and happy to be on that.
Hey, very nice. Derek.
Well, I hope to join you guys next weekend. I'll take a look at Xubuntu. I've already got the ISO for Xubuntu 1904 and Hackman. I just finished downloading Hackman again, Ben. Hopefully this ISO will work out for me. I'll try to take a look at that this week. But on my main production machine, Arco Linux Master Race, by the way.
Wow. Frank, last word, brother.
Rocco, Zeb, thank you for doing this. Dan and the Lubuntu team, thank you guys for all your work. Sean, thank you for being here tonight. Extra thanks to you for all the work you continue to do on Catfish. It works everywhere I install it. It is awesome. And I just want to do a shout out for the XFCE #1 distro watch, MX Linux.
Nice.
All right, Dolphin.
Big Pod, last word.
Yeah, thank you. And Arch and Manjaro are for me any day of the week. Also next week, hopefully I will have the more data on why FFmpeg and OBS and NVENC don't play together on Ubuntu.
Maybe you can write a blog post about how to fix it.
Yeah.
We'll count to that when I actually understand the issue at core level.
All right, Ben, last word.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on to talk about Xubuntu and iOS and everything like that. Glad to talk to you guys as always, and you guys are cool, and hope to be back with some Xubuntu goodness next week.
JJ.
Alrighty, thanks Rocco for the stream, and also want to put this out there. Ubuntu has been in my distro journey ever since I first started experimenting with Linux. This goes back to me messing with an old gateway system that you get in the cow patch box, that sort of thing. So Ubuntu has taken me back a long way, and I really do thank the teams for making Ubuntu widespread and how popular it is, and continue all the great work, especially for what Lubuntu and Xubuntu coming up, and for our tests and all that. Also want to point out that after this stream, there is a place to converse after the show. It is the BigDaddyLinux.com/Discord, correct?
It is correct. You can join the Discord channel right there.
Yeah, I just want to put that out there for those who want to talk after the show.
And there's also the after show on the Zoom that nobody else gets to see. Sorry. Allie, last word.
Hello. It's good to be back. I'll give you that. Yeah, I missed it. It took me some time. I said I was going to be back ages ago, but things didn't go to plan. But I'm back. Yeah. And so I'm not just doing my Trinity desktop anymore. I'm doing my open box as well. So there's 2 to play with.
Oh, my.
Yeah. It's got to be done. It's got to be done. I know I blame Derek for it. I'm sorry, Derek, but I do, mate, because like you started me off on the open box route.
Yeah, I can't wait to check out your new one. I've still got the old one actually on one of my drives.
Yeah, the new one is up on my page, but I've got it in another folder because I haven't made a site for it yet or anything. But that's okay. Anyway, hope to see you all next week. And I know I am going to be trying the Xubuntu, so Sean better get his act together and just.
Good to have you back, Allie.
Yeah, it's good to be back, Rocco. It really is nice to be back.
Tom Cruise, last word.
Well, I've really been enjoying the 1904 release of Ubuntu. I've actually just been using normal Ubuntu with GNOME, and quite happy with it. So keep calm and disco on.
Oh my gosh. The man with the personality problem. Can't figure out if he's Michael at Tux Digital or Destination Linux. Michael, last word.
Well, we'll never figure that out, actually. So check out tuxdigital.com. Also, Destination Linux is going to have an interesting live stream tomorrow because we're going to have, well, not a live stream, technically it's in Zoom, but Noah is going to be at Linux Fest Northwest. So we're going to do something on time. Yeah. And
I'll believe it when I see it.
Right. I finally found the slogan for Linux from scratch.
Yeah.
Oh, crud. Old memes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for showing up. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you especially to all of the Ubuntu teams. Sean, your team, Dan, Ubuntu's team. All of the hard work that goes into it. I know we say it all the time, but I can't never say it enough that if you use something you like, support it in any way that you can. Other than that, we will see you next week. Remember, Long live Linux.
Later.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The pageant wave from Tom Cruise.
Yeah.